Good morning, everyone. Today is Act Chapter 27. And when it was decided that we should sail to Italy, they delivered Paul and some other prisoners to one named Julius, a centurion of Augustan regiment. So, entering a ship of Dramytum, we put to sea, meaning to sail along the coast of Asia. Aristarchus, a Macedonian of Thessalonica, was with us. And the next day we landed at Sidon, and Julius treated Paul kindly and gave him liberty to go to his friends and receive care. When we had put to sea from there, we sailed under the shelter of Cyprus because the wind were contrary. And when we had sailed over the sea which is of Sicilica and Pamphylia, we came to Myra and city of Lycia. There the centurion found an Alexandrian ship sailing to Italy, and he put us on board. When we had sailed slowly many days and arrived with difficulty off Sindus, the wind not permitting us to proceed, we sailed under the shelter of Crate of Salmon. Passing in with difficulty, we came to a place called Fair Haven, near the city of Lacy. Now, when much time had been spent, and sailing was not dangerous because the fast was already over, Paul advised them, saying, "Men, I perceive that this voyage will end with disaster and much loss, but not only of the cargo and ship, but also our lives." Nevertheless, the centurion was more persuaded by the helmsman and the owner of the ship than by the things spoken by Paul. And because the harbor was not suitable to winter in, the majority advised to set sail from there also, if by any means they could reach Phoenix, a harbor of Crete, opening toward the southwest and northwest, and winter there. When the south wind blew softly, supposing that they had obtained their desire, putting out to sea, they sailed close by Crete. But not long after, a tempestuous headwind arose, called Euroclydon. So when the ship was caught and could not head into the wind, we let her drive, and running under the shelter of an island called Clauda, we secured the skiff with difficulty. When they had taken it on board, they used cable to undergird the ship, and fearing lest they should run around on the started sand, they stuck sail and so were driven. And because we were exceedingly tempest tossed, the next day they lightening the ship. On the third day, we threw the ship's tackle overboard with our own hand. Now, when neither sun nor stars appeared for many days, and no small tempest beat on us, all hope that we would be saved was finally given up. But after long abstinence from food, then Paul stood in the midst of them and said, "Men, you should have listened to me and not have sailed from Crete and in, incurred this disaster and loss. And now I urge you to take heart, for there will be no loss of life among you, but only of the ship. For there stood by me this night an angel of the God to whom I belong and whom I serve, saying, Do not be afraid, Paul. You must be brought before Caesar. And indeed, God has granted you all those who sail with you. Therefore, take heart, men, for I believe God that it will be just as it was told me. However, we must run aground on a certain island. Now, when the 14th night had come, as we were driven up and down in the Adriatic Sea, about midnight, the sailors sensed that they were drowning near some land, and they took sounding and found it to be 20 fathoms. And when they had gone a little farther, they took sounding again to and found it to be 15 fathoms. Then, fearing lest we should run aground on the rocks, they dropped 4 anchors from the stern and prayed for day to come. And as the sailors were seeking to escape from the ship, when they had let down the skip into the sea, under pretense of putting out anchor from the prow, Paul said to the centurion and the soldiers, Unless these men stay in the ship, you cannot be saved. Then the soldiers cut away the ropes of the skiff and let it fall off. And as day was about to dawn, Paul implored them all to take food, saying, Today is the 14th day you have waited and continued without food, and eaten nothing. Therefore, I urge you to take nourishment, for this is for your survival, since not a hair will fall from the head of any of you. And when he had said these things, he took bread and gave thanks to God in the presence of them all. And when he had broken it, he began to eat. Then they were all encouraged and also took food themselves. And in all, we were 276 persons on the ship. So when they had eaten enough, they lightened the ship and threw out the wheat into the sea. When it was day, they did not recognize the land, but they observed a bay with a beach, onto which they planned to run to ship if possible. And they let go the anchors and left them in the sea. Meanwhile, losing the rudder ropes, and they hoisted the mainsail to the wind and made for shore. But striking a place where two seas met, they ran the ship ground and the plow stuck fast and remained immovable. But the stern was being broken up by the violence of the wave, and the soldiers' plan was to kill the prisoners, lest any of them should swim away and escape. But the centurion, wanting to save Paul, kept them from their purpose and commanded that those who could swim should jump overboard first and get to land, and the rest, some on board and some on part of the ship. And so it was that they all escaped safely to land. So that's the story. of Paul's voyage to Rome in Acts chapter 27 is is like an epic adventure, but it is actually one of the greatest lessons on selfless leadership and divine responsibility. So Paul had warned the crew about the coming storm, but they ignore him. When the Clodon, the great northeastern, wind hit, Paul could have easily adopt an, I told you so attitude or focus solely on his own survivor. But after all, God had already promised him he would reach Rome, and so means that he could say that no matter what, God gonna save him. But no. However, Paul didn't use his divine insurance policy as an excuse to be selfish. How can I say self protection? He stayed in the boat with them, not just physically, but also spiritually and emotionally with them, and he supported them. He helped them. So there were about 276 people on the ship. And Paul, I don't know how, but he tried to save everyone. And it couldn't happen, by one man's work. But the soldiers and centurion, they respect Paul. So what does it mean? People want to do right thing, and especially when they try to serve God, they said, "Oh, okay, this is right thing because to save people, this is so and so and right." But if they never obtain, I mean, they never win the respect from people, they can't. It can happen. But Paul, he practiced the Christian life, Christian like life. So centurion and all soldiers, they respect Paul. That makes difference. So Paul, he could save himself, but he didn't use it that for his own opportunity, but he tried to save people. And it happened. But how? Because people respect Paul. Even he was prisoner, but he had that great reputation, not because who he is, but because he hold the reputation. I mean, he was the representing God. So that is the powerful story in this epic adventure. So I hope you enjoyed this meditation. Have a wonderful day and may God bless you all.